My name is Sarah. I'm sitting in my cozy cabin by the lake, the silence around me a stark contrast to the chaos that once filled this space. The decision to cut ties with my family was a long time coming, but it was a confrontation at their house that finally solidified my choice. I remember that day clearly. My mother had suggested a meeting, and I knew it was time to draw a line in the sand. I drove to their place on the far side of town, carrying a folder filled with evidence of my sister's identity theft. Inside, the kitchen was set up like a stage, with my father, Mr. Thompson, sitting at one end, my mother, Mrs. Thompson, hovering near the counter, and my sister, Lily, waiting across from my reserved seat. They started the conversation with the same old tunes about family loyalty and how money should never come between us. They blamed me for becoming distant and ungrateful, completely ignoring the changes I'd made to protect myself. I let them talk until their words became a blur, and then I placed the folder on the table and opened it. The credit report, my notes, and the timeline spoke for themselves. I calmly explained that Lily had opened a store credit card using my information, and the balance was high and the payments were late. I'd already flagged the account as suspected identity theft, and the bank was investigating. If they found I wasn't responsible, the debt would be removed from my record. If there was evidence of deliberate misuse, they'd involve law enforcement. Lily's attitude changed as she realized the gravity of the situation. My mother insisted it was a misunderstanding and that families should handle things privately. My father, though, understood the risk right away, his jaw tightening. But their reactions didn't sway me. I made it clear that I wasn't going to absorb any of the debt or listen to excuses. I was there to protect my future. The silence that followed was deafening. Lily no longer looked like the demanding sister I knew. She looked scared. My parents seemed unsteady, as if the conversation had veered off their planned script. I gathered the papers, closed the folder, and told them that any further attempts to pressure me would be documented. I walked out, knowing that this time, I'd left without leaving any part of the problem behind. It all started long before that meeting. I'd always been the responsible one in my family. I grew up in a small town where my parents, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, were strict and traditional. They expected me, as the eldest, to take care of my younger sister, Lily. Lily was the wild one, always changing jobs and never taking responsibility for her actions. After college, I landed a good job at an insurance firm and bought a small cabin near the lake. I thought I'd finally escape the constant demands of my family, but one phone call changed everything. Lily called and told me she'd quit her job because she was stressed and that I'd be paying her rent. She believed my income was her safety net, and I was just supposed to accept it. When I didn't immediately agree, my mother sent a text warning me of the consequences of refusal. That's when I knew I had to take action. I started by moving my money out of the joint account we'd set up years ago to help with my parents' bills in case of an emergency. It had become a source of their expectation, and I needed to break free. I also changed the locks on my cabin. My parents still had a set of keys from when it was being renovated, and I couldn't stand the thought of them having access without my permission. It was a small step, but it felt like a huge victory. But my family didn't take my actions lightly. They bombarded me with messages, accusing me of betrayal and ingratitude. One day, when I came home from work, I found 2 cars parked in front of my cabin. It was a clear sign that they weren't going to give up easily. They banged on the door, demanding explanations. I let them in, but I made it clear that things had changed. They tried the old key, and were shocked to find it didn't work. The knocking continued, along with their accusations about loyalty and family. They even threatened to involve my job and neighbors if I didn't cooperate. That's when I started to doubt myself. Maybe I was overreacting. But then, a message from a cousin I rarely heard from changed everything. She told me that she'd run into Lily at a bar, and after a few drinks, Lily had boasted about using my information to open a store credit card. I did some investigating and found out that it was true. There was a large credit card debt in my name that I had no knowledge of. I called the bank to report the fraud and started gathering evidence. It was a long and stressful process, but it gave me the strength to stand my ground. In the weeks that followed, the distance between my family and me grew. My parents still called, but their messages were filled with anger and disappointment. I listened to a few, but then I decided to stop. I blocked their numbers, set up email filters, and put away the last spare key. It was a painful decision, but it was necessary for my own well-being. Looking back, I realized that love without boundaries is indeed erosion. I learned to respect myself enough to walk away from those who were hurting me. Now, I'm building a life that's truly mine, free from the constant demands and expectations of my family.